you start talking about ownership. You start talking about landlords and people who own their homes. Not necessarily just even landlord. A person can be a landlord nowadays if you just rent out a segment of your house, a part of your house, you know, that kind of a deal. So that's really, and we got, and with us today, we got sort of an authority. We got a guy that really gets out there and he knows every nook and cranny in the Portland metropolitan area. He's been in this real estate business for years. I've known him for years about that piece. But Fred Stewart is there. He knows the business. He's been the person on the ground. He knows what the real estate is all about. And it's not just about a Northeast Portland real estate. No, it's about land throughout this city and Multnomah County, for that matter, as far as I'm concerned. And so what we're going to do, we're going to spend some time with him, and hopefully he will kind of take us through the deal. And got Richard Carpenter, who's here, and Richard has a Producers Association show. We do a show on a monthly basis, and the bottom line is that we're going to probably extend that to his guest list too, and talk about it, because it's a very important issue. Because homelessness is a big issue, and the landlords are very much involved in that process, and so we're going to do that. So Fred, welcome aboard.
Bruce, thanks for having me again on your show. You know, I always appreciate you bringing me on here, and I really appreciate talking about housing.
Yes.
Because our housing policy right now in the city of Portland.
Excuse me for a minute. I'm sorry. I should have done that for the benefit of those folks. A lot of folks are moving in, Fred.
Okay.
Moving in our area aspect of it. Give them just a brief moment about description of who you are, and what you've done in the real estate.
Well, I'm a real estate broker. I've been in real estate for now over 30 years. I started in real estate when I was 23 years old. Now I'm 54, so it's been over 30 years. I've sold approximately...
In the Portland area?
In the Portland area. I've sold 768 addresses in inner north and northeast Portland. I'm approaching 1,100 transactions in inner north and northeast Portland. And 30 years ago this very moment, I had 135 homes in the market at one time.
Wow.
All within walking distance of my mother's house, who lives over just off of Alberta Street on Cleveland Street, Cleveland
Really?
Avenue. Yeah. So
By the way, how's Mom doing?
Mom's doing good.
You tell her hi, will you please?
Hi, Mom.
Okay, good.
Okay. So no, housing is very sophisticated here in Portland, Oregon, and it's something right now that, you know, for the first time since 1988, when Gretchen Kafoury won and got on city council and led the city into what I consider the best days of housing policy. Gretchen Kafoury, Vera Katz, Jim Francisconi, I mean, God bless them, what they did in the 90s for housing. I'd say there's a lot of people that live in Portland right now who are in homes that gross less than 80 grand a year. If it wasn't for those three people, they wouldn't live here. They would not be able to afford to live here. So we're going into some bad days right now. The city council right now's housing policy is the worst it's been in 30 years.
Really?
It's bad. It's really meant for middle class and wealthy, what I call middle class and wealthy white people, because the city knows that 40%, well, the average black person, the average black family has only 40% of the wealth of the average white family. That's their numbers. And they know that a single black person, a person that's black, you know, the average single black person only has about 25% of the wealth of the average single white person.
Wow.
So they know their housing policy has a detrimental effect on minorities. And they're really not doing anything to address that at all. It has a very detrimental effect. But overall, it has a detrimental effect on all people of a certain income category, everybody. And that's pretty much all housing that's 80 grand, that gross is 80 grand or less, whether you're single or, you know, or a couple or a family. So imagine a family of five out there, mom and dad both work, and they're renting, and they gross between the two of them, you know, 80 grand or less a year. Their city's working against them with their housing policy. They're probably, most of those people are not going to live in Portland 5 years from now. Most of them, not all of them, are going to be pushed up, but most of them will be, unless something happens with their income and they somehow in the next 5 years are able to get to 120,000 5 years from now, you know, household income, gross household income. And certainly 82nd West is the hardest area to live when you're in that income bracket. But basically it's going to get harder and harder 82nd East, because the people who normally live 82nd West, who are in that, they're pushed out. We got approximately 75,000 people a year moving just to the to the city of Portland, just to the city of Portland. And of course, they cover all income brackets. But basically, if you move to Portland and you make $100,000 a year, your household grosses $100,000 a year, you're walking to the door with a significant advantage for housing on all the people in Portland that live in households for $80,000 a year or less. So our legislature brought in statewide rent control. It's not just in the city; it's statewide, and the city's got limitations of where they can go. But what we've seen already is an uptick in rents at turnover. Currently with rent control, a landlord can raise their rents 3% for cost of living.
Okay.
That's a inflation rate, and 7% for their cost, and so that's about up to a 10% increase. Well, before rent control, the average raise was about 5% citywide. I mean, there was exceptions. Usually, when people live in an apartment or duplex where there was a ownership turnover, they would see their rents go way up. But unless their rents went way up, the average person saw their rents go up, 5 to 10%. With the offset, probably the average was 5 to 7%. Well, now we're going to start seeing a solid 10% increase every year in rents because, why not? And then
to do with those bonding things, all that bonding expenses.
Well, not yet. We still got all those bonds. The Portland Public Schools is already working on another bond to bring in.
Oh yeah.
I think in the year 2021, just after the next election.
Okay.
And that one's supposed to be the biggest ever. So I'm expecting it to be 1.2 to 1.5 billion.
Any of these other bonds get paid off?
No, we still get 25 plus years on those bonds, in those last two bonds. So you're going to see rents. You're going to see rents go up at least $150 per home. I mean, the last time it was like 75, 80. This next one's going to be bigger. So let's, for conversation's sake, say $100.
That's right.
Just for the bond, you're going to see
the bond.
You're going to see everybody's rents. And you see, if you own the property, you get to write that off on your taxes.
Right.
You get my meaning?
Yep.
But if you're a renter and that's passed to you, it's just money out of your pocket.
Yep.
So the renters are hammered. You understand what I'm talking about? And the state, I've said to a couple of legislators, why don't you allow a certain percentage of the, because of the up ramp in rents, why don't you allow the renters to write off a certain portion of their rent to be able to take some of the pressure, upward pressure on their income? You understand what I'm talking about? To offset what's going on with, higher taxation, rent control, higher competition for the space that you're in. To show you how bad it is, I've been selling duplexes. I love selling duplexes, right? I sell duplexes to anybody that I can, single people, retired people, because it's a great future investment. You live in one side and rent the other side.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
10 years ago, we had almost 700 multifamilies, duplexes, threeplexes, and fourplexes on the market. As of this morning, we only had 228.
Wow.
Okay, that shows you how aggressive the market's going, when it comes to rentals. We've got the fewest amount of investment income properties on the market available today, probably that we've ever had. I know 30 years ago we had a lot more. I know 20 years ago we had a lot more. And I'm pretty damn confident 10 years ago we had a lot more. So right now we've got the lowest amount because investors are buying them up. Because with the influx of people coming in, it's not if you're going to get your rent, it's when you're going to get your rent. And if the people don't pay, fine. You're going to kick them out
And
get somebody else because our market population is growing. And so rent control has put fuel on that fire, on that upward pressure. And it's going to affect everybody. But I always want to bring up that it affects the minorities more, black people more, because, the average black family, is not as wealthy as the average white family at every level. So our richest person is nowhere near as rich as the richest white person. You understand what I'm talking about? I mean, and that's how it goes. It trends downward. So black people are always at a disadvantage for competing for a commodity like housing because, when they go and compete, there's like maybe 5 or 6 other white people competing against them, and most likely half of them or more, are going to be more qualified economically than they will. So if the landlord is not racist at all, let's say the landlord doesn't even know what color anybody is, just picks
Yeah.
the most qualified person.
Yeah.
You understand?
Pay the rent.
You know, that's all they're interested in, right? Odds are, more often than not, the black people lose out.
Yeah, right.
And that's what has been set up with this rent control. You understand? And then people say, well, Fred, what's the cure for that? Well, the cure for that is better housing policy. So, there's more housing development. We don't have any that I know of. And there may be one or two that I just haven't come across yet. And it shows you how rare it's going to be. I don't know any investors who are building single family or duplex rental housing right now. Nobody. The guys I know that are building duplexes, they're building to sell to owner occupied. You understand? They're not looking at building a duplex and holding.
That's all I used to do.
Yeah.
Single family dwelling
Right.
and duplex.
Yep.
That's what we used to do.
Developers now, they want to
years
build it
ago.
and get rid of it. They don't want to hold it. You know, the city has made it so hard to get money. There's no institutional lending for development of residential housing in Portland unless you're building a unit 200 units or more.
Well, who's leading that charge from a political
Well,
standpoint?
that's Chloe Daly and her staff.
Oh, yeah.
I tell everybody, Chloe Daly and her staff, they should feel very comfortable. I mean, this has got to be intentional. They should feel very comfortable. They've probably done more damage to the average working Portland person when it comes to finding housing than we've ever had. They've got a lot of desperate people who thought rent control was going to help them because rent control sounds like it's a good idea. When 2016, 2015, when people were seeing their rents going up, $100 a year, 150,
Yeah.
they didn't understand that. Like this one person I explained, when her rent went up $300, I pointed out to them that 150 of that was that last school bond measure that we just passed.
Yep.
Okay, I said that school bond measure. And then the other is the landlord, the property just switched hands. The landlord paid X amount for it.
Yeah.
They've got to make sure that brings in enough income to cover the debt service.
Right.
You know what I mean? And all the costs.
It's the bond measure that you voted for.
But you voted for this bond measure, so $150 of this increase
That we fought.
is a bond measure that you personally voted for. You actually said, I want my property taxes on the building that I live in to go up
Yep.
to pay for improving our schools.
That's right.
And it's not that it's not good to pay, pay for our schools,
no.
but we could have done it cheaper. I'm not going to get into that, but look at what's going on in the Franklin neighborhood.
Yeah.
Look at how many people, and I tell people, if you don't think that school bond measure hasn't affected what's going on in Lentz, Lentz is going through a very aggressive gentrification phase right now. It's more aggressive than what we saw in inner northeast Portland, because they got Foster Road and 82nd,
Oh, yes,
and
I saw that.
they got
Yes.
the mall. That place is going like gangbusters.
Yes.
Well, look at what's going on with the Franklin School District.
Oh,
now,
man.
Franklin's always been a good area,
oh,
but you
man.
get up there on 60th and Division,
Yes.
and go into those old, bungalow neighborhoods, I call them.
Oh, yes.
And you're getting rents that I've never heard before.
Like what? Like what?
$2,000 for like a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 750 square foot. Little thing.
Right. All cramped together.
Yeah, all
One-
another
one
person I
fire.
know is asking $1,700. It's a pretty good sized duplex. Each side's three bedroom, but it's $1,750 each side.
Jeez.
And I'm like, these are for now, friends. They're kind of exceptions. This is above what they do averagely. But what I'm saying is, you're seeing it creep in. You're seeing it creep in. People are going into that neighborhood, cherry picking the nicer places.
Yeah.
You understand, and getting them. And that's why I tell renters, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to look at where you need to live for your family, and start understanding you may have to move where you're from right now to get into a better situation long term. You understand? Do that now, as opposed to let's say you live on, I don't know, 75th and Tillamook or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very hot area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your rent's going up. It may not go up right now, but your rent
it's gonna go up.
is going up. So
Right.
would you rather wait?
Yep.
Or would you rather go to Lentz now, or
And
go
get-
into
and-
the
and get your spot.
and go into the Franklin High School area? Because Franklin High School has been completely remodeled. It looks beautiful, and like I said, the city did that, or our politicians did that. They didn't do that for the people who lived in the community,
Right.
because they can't afford to live in that community. They're doing it for the
Incredible.
people who are moving here that are
right.
middle class.
Yep.
and they're wealthy.
That's right. And they got that
You-
money.
You know what I mean? They got that money.
Yeah.
And that's why they do it. And like I said, guys, what I miss about housing policy in Portland, I mean, when Gretchen Kafuri was on city council and Eric Sten
Yeah.
and Vera Katz was on,
Yeah.
they were always thinking about the bottom up
Yeah.
when it comes to public housing. They always were thinking about the
Bud-
middle class.
Bud Clark did a
No,
little
no,
piece
and
there.
Bud Clark,
Yeah,
Clark's-
Bud did a lot.
but Bud did too.
Yep,
Bud
yep.
could have done more, but
Could have, yep.
you know, I won't
But
get
that-
into
but that wasn't
Northeast
his thing.
CDC
Yeah,
stuff.
that was- yeah, that's a whole
I won't get
different
into that.
ball. Yeah, that's a whole
Not
different
but the
ball.
thing is, we're not there right now.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear Chloe talk, you are hearing the wealthiest, cash-rich developers, real estate owners in Oregon talking.
Wow.
Why don't you think you don't hear the wealthiest landowners bitching? I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
At Chloe.
At Chloe,
That's
or complaining about rent
Yeah,
control.
yeah.
I mean, you know, you got guys that are literally making $1 million a month. I'm waiting for her when she runs for office. They're probably going to have their grandkids donate money, you know, to her because
Wow.
she's making that estate, you know, really rich.
Wow.
You know what I'm talking about?
But perception-wise.
But then they walk out and they say, well, you know, Homer Williams,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
a jerk.
Yeah, yeah,
and they're
right, right.
looking at all these other
Yeah.
flashy
But it-
developers.
But it's Chloe.
But the thing is, it's the ones that you don't pay attention
yep,
to.
yep,
The
yep.
ones that own, you know, 2,000 single family units. You know, the guys that control, you know, 1,500 duplexes in the state.
wow.
You don't hear from them. Those guys are going, go, Chloe, go.
Okay.
You're getting rid of the minorities. You know what I mean? You're getting rid of the riffraff, the poor folk. You know what I mean? And think about if you own 30 homes in Lentz right now. Who are you getting rid of? All the felony flat folks.
Yep, yep,
You know what I mean?
yep,
all the
yep.
all the
keep
biker
pushing
guys,
it.
all
You
the
keep
biker
pushing it.
guys and
Yep, yep.
and everything like that. And who you're renting to?
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're renting to the new Portlanders that are
Yep,
moving in this
yep,
town.
yep.
And like I said, guys, you know, if you don't believe me, just go over into Lentz or go over into the Franklin neighborhood. You know where Franklin High
yeah,
School is?
yeah,
Oh,
And
yeah.
just go into those neighborhoods
Yes,
that
yes.
border Franklin.
Yes.
Just walk around.
Yeah.
And if you grew up here like I did, you know what I'm talking about, you're going to notice the switch.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's
And
right.
start looking, just look at the cars
Yes.
that are
Oh,
in the
yes.
in the
Oh,
neighborhood.
yes, yes.
You know, just look at the cars.
Hey.
If you want to understand what somebody can afford for rent, walk down the street and look at the truck. I mean, I was over on what is it, 80th and Raymond or something like Southeast Raymond or something like
Yeah,
that. And
yeah.
this guy had a Raptor parked in front of his car. I mean, his house. And I'm thinking, I bet that Raptor cost a third of what that house is worth. You know what I mean? And he's probably renting it.
Yeah,
You know what
oh,
I mean?
yeah,
He
yeah.
just moved here probably.
yeah,
got
yeah,
a good job.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he's got his Raptor in his front of his house.
What's that word?
A
Ramp.
Raptor is a very
that's
high-end
very high-end.
Ford truck.
Yep. Yep.
Oh.
And
Big
you
time.
can customize it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
they're
yeah.
expensive.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And usually when you see a guy or a woman, you can say they got a good income. You know, they do pretty good.
That's right.
You know what I
or
mean?
both of them.
Or both of them
You
do
know,
pretty
you
good.
reminded me again. For instance, you reminded me like right now with that big heat wave, whatever.
Yep.
You're gonna have another large group of folks coming down here saying, getting away from back east.
Well, you got to remember
Huge.
on the West Coast, what makes Portland so attractive economically
Oh, man.
is for a big city, and we are like the 22nd largest economic power in the country. Okay, as far as cities go, right?
Really?
We're the 22nd. So, but look at just in the West Coast, of a big city, we are the most affordable.
That's right.
You know what I mean? We are the most affordable of the big city. So that's why a lot of people are looking at us. That you get all the amenities of a big city, and it doesn't cost as much. You know, it doesn't. And now, you know, for the last 3 or 4 years, we've had more people from Google and Facebook and Intel
yes.
and high tech. And when you bring that in here, then you're bringing in a lot of times, especially in the west side of Portland, you've got those corporations buying houses as part of packages, income packages,
That's right.
compensation packages for their employees. So now you got Portland people not just competing against people who are coming from out of town, not just people who are doing well in town.
Corporate community.
They're now competing against corporations.
Yep.
And you know, and I tell people that's why housing policy can't be sloppy, and that's what we got right now. It can't be based on mostly idealism
Yeah.
about, hey, I hate Homer Williams' bank account, or hey, I hate so and so's builder bank, and that's where they're at right now.
That's right.
It's like Intifada invaded city council.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, when I look at Chloe, I'm like,
yeah.
Intifada. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
But the thing is, look around the city. How many new houses do you see being built? In about 6 or 8 months, you're going to notice not as many cranes in Portland, not as many apartments are going to be built. And friends, all the apartments you've seen built over the last 10 years, they're all condos. And when 10 to 12 years after those condos, those apartment buildings or whatever condos are completed, those things are going to hit the market as condos. And right now we've got more condos in the market than I think I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
And if it wasn't for that, thank God, housing would probably be another 10% more.
Why don't they rent them as apartments?
Well, they rent they rent them as apartments for the first 10 years because there's a statutory warranty period.
Oh.
When you build a condo, the state of Oregon, to protect the consumer, has a statutory 10-year warranty period where the developer is responsible for basically the fit and finish
Right.
of the condo.
Right.
So that means anything goes wrong,
He's
he's got to fix it. They don't have that statutory warranty on apartment buildings.
Okay.
That doesn't exist in apartment buildings. So what you do is you build a condo, and then you rent it for 10 years, and then sometime after 10 years, you sell it as condos.
Yeah.
So you get your cake and you eat it too, and you've avoided the warranties.
Yeah, there you go.
See what I mean?
Wow.
And that's what's going on. But therefore, because of rent control and other reasons, you're going to see, you've already seen a lot fewer single homes being built. Developers, between land costs and interest rates, and some other housing policies from the city, like the insane city fees, the SDC fees to develop a house, can be anywhere between 50 to 100 grand a door. So in other words, before you put your shovel in the ground, you've already spent 50 to 100 grand
Yeah.
talking to the city.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
That's right. That's
You're
right.
paying your permits to the city.
That's right.
And everything. Then you got so that's why that's another pressure on people to build housing.
What are you hinting about Laurelhurst? Look like there's some changes there. They're trying to prevent single family.
Well, right now the state has gotten rid of single family zoning, which is actually good for poor people.
Okay.
That's the one thing. I mean, Tina Kotek shocked me with pushing that because it's a damn good idea. But she needs more. She needs to get rid of rent control to bring more money back in the market to develop more housing. But then now that she's gotten rid of single family housing, which is great. That is awesome for the working class of Oregon.
Yeah.
I mean, and the working class of
Lots of
Portland.
huge.
Okay, that's going to allow more housing. So in other words, guys, it's going to make it easier if you have a single family house to put an ADU in. It's already easy, but you can probably put more than one ADU in.
What's ADU?
An auxiliary dwelling unit, a mother-in-law's apartment and stuff. It makes it much easier. And it makes it easier for developers to buy a house that's an R5 zone, it's a single family zone, and tear down the house and put maybe 4 units on it. But put 4 rental units, for a 4-plex on it, or a duplex, or a 3-plex. And then it does great for helping build, like you said, I won't say lower value, but lower impact housing that doesn't cost as much to develop. Right now in the city of Portland, it costs between $240 to $280 a foot to build a house. So if you want a 2,000 square foot house, do the math.
Ooh, wow.
And then you add on the all the other stuff, like the city may want you to put a road in.
Oh.
You know what I mean? That's 30 grand. They want to put sidewalks in. That's 10 grand. You know what I'm talking about? The city may say, hey, I want you to put a bioswale in. Oh, that's another 10 grand. I mean, that's why you've seen so few houses being built over the last year, is that, you can go in to build a house. And let's say you already know you're going to be into that house for, $500-600 grand, plus maybe land costs on top of that in some cases. But then you don't know what the city's going to want you to do and how much that's going to cost. So you may end up having to do a road, sidewalks, and stuff. And in these roads, I mean, this is for my friends who live east of 82nd. It was the summer of 1985 when the city annexed east of 82nd. A lot of people don't know that 35 years ago, our borders ended at 82nd.
Yeah, right.
The other side was unincorporated.
Right.
Okay, so you got all these houses over there, all these properties over there, and you got all these people who don't have sidewalks, maybe they don't have a paved road. Well, people may wonder, hey, there's a vacant lot across my house. How come they don't put a house there? That would be perfect. Well, it may cost a developer $150,000 to do everything on that road. You know what I mean? $50,000 in city fees for permits for the house, and then they get to spend, 240 to 280 bucks a foot. So they may have to spend $1 million to build a house they're going to sell for 450. You know what I mean? That is how our
That's where we are
city
now.
sets everybody up, and it cracks me up. It hurts me at the same time because we're at the spot right now with the lowest interest rates, in years.
Still low.
Still very low, and looks like it's going to be low for some time. We've got a growing population that's coming in. We've got a lot of opportunities here where we've got a lot of people who are working class who own real estate. They could have an opportunity here to manipulate their real estate to create more income for their families. Maybe do more to help their families
Wages
have
going up.
have affordable place
Wages
to
are
live.
up.
Yeah, wages are going up, but rents are going up faster than wages.
Isn't that something?
Rents are going up like twice as fast as the average wage in Portland. And then, then you turn around and this cap and trade. I mean, I'm not trying to change the subject, but then they come around. Your rents are already going up faster than your yearly income, is going up. And then the governor comes in and says, "We're going to do cap and trade because we want to lead the world." And make a lot of rich liberal white people very happy. Because they can afford it. They can afford the 25 to 30% hit to their discretionary income.
That's right, no problem.
To do it. Where people on fixed incomes, people who live in households that gross 80 grand a year or less, they can't afford that. They can't afford their gas bill going up 40% this winter. You know what I mean? I love my Democrats. They love saying, we're the leaders, we're doing good, and you should be proud of yourself. And they don't say, guess what? You should be proud of yourself. We're going to do cap and trade, and your gas bill is going to go up 40% this winter.
That's the election.
You had a hard time paying your rent, not rent, but your rent and your gas last winter. You're really going to suffer, and you need to be proud of that. Because we're leaders in global warming. Oh, by the way, your gasoline that you put in your car, that's going up 22 to 40 cents a gallon too.
But the idea is you blame Republicans.
Well, they blame Republicans because usually it's the Republicans that are kicking the middle class, the working poor, and the poor in the teeth.
Right.
No, we've got this inverse where we've got we got a lot of we got a lot of white, wealthy, well-educated people who mean well. You understand? They do mean well. They want the world to be a better place. They don't care how many people they hurt to get it. You understand what I'm talking about? They don't look at my mother who's 80 and retired. They don't care.
That's right.
They're pricing her out of her life.
That's
And, well, she's got 3 kids. That's not going to happen.
Right.
But, they're like, hey, Dorothy Stewart, yeah, you may not be able to afford your gas bill, but we're fighting global warming. You haven't worked in 10 years after working for 50 years?
Well, all due respect, the newly commissioner, Joanne Hardesty, didn't she understand that?
Well, Joanne, I think, is still learning. Joanne has really been a 1 or 2 trick pony most of her life. She's a nice woman, great woman. But, this stuff, I don't want to come across saying that this is too sophisticated for someone like her, because it's not. You have to have the inclination to want to look at who you're hurting. Like I saw her do this video about, the rocks.
Yeah, the rocks. I saw that.
And she's like,
wow.
ODOT.
Wow.
Would you please, get rid of the rocks here?
Jeez.
And that's like telling little kids it should be good to to camp next to a road.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm talking about? I mean, can you imagine being an 8-year-old boy saying, hey, that black lady, she's fighting for our right to camp near the road.
Cars going 60, 70 miles an hour.
Yeah. No, Joanne's not thinking about that. Joanne's thinking about housing. You know what I'm talking about? In her own limited fashion. She's not a sophisticated person when it comes to housing. That wasn't her thing.
No,
that wasn't her thing.
It was police.
So, you know what I mean? So she's not thinking about the importance of the safety of not having so many people camping on the road.
That's right.
So they don't, do things like step in front of moving traffic.
Yeah, that's huge.
And other things like that. She's not thinking about.
She should have called Kate up on that standpoint.
Well, no, we got a lot of people who are.
They don't have the bad.
They got good hearts. Well, a couple of them. I don't think Chloe's got a good heart, but that's another story. But we got a lot of Democrats.
Well, Chloe says, "I'm glad to be here."
Well, I think Chloe. I mean, I think
that might be the mayor watch, if you will.
Oh, I don't think. I think Chloe. I think Chloe is on a mission she's on her own mission to hurt people. But what I'm saying is, a lot of people in our legislature, a lot of people who are active,
Yeah.
and the reason I bring this up is the reason why they don't think about the little guy and the little girl. Nobody, the little guys and little girls, economically, can't afford to be in the room. To stick up for themselves. You understand what I'm talking about? They can't afford, because they're out working. They got kids to take care of. They got rent to pay. They got utilities to pay.
Right.
They don't show up to these meetings and say, hey, Kate, I can't afford a 40% increase in my gas bill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't afford that.
Yeah,
They don't have that.
yeah,
What they do have is a bunch of people in the room that says, it may be a 40% increase, but it's time that we made a stand for global warming.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I will accept that. I'm
Yes.
just going to tell my husband,
Yes.
you can't play golf as much.
Yes.
And I'm not going to get my nails done as much.
Right,
And I'm
right.
not going to get my toes done at all.
Yeah, you're right.
Because we're going to make a sacrifice. You know what I mean? And they're not thinking about that person going, hey, that's food
Yep.
for my kid.
Yep.
That is, the car payment. You know what I mean? That is the, child care.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
For me to go to work.
You know what I mean? I can't give up child care because
right.
for global warming,
That's right.
what do I do?
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's
They
right.
don't think about those folks because,
right.
unfortunately, those folks don't go to those meetings
Mm-hmm.
because those folks are at work, taking care of their kids,
Mm-hmm.
or getting some sleep so they can go to work and take care of their kids. Do you understand? And if you notice, when they talk about these things, friends, they never talk about the unintended consequences to the most vulnerable people in the market.
Yeah.
They never, ever do. So when it comes to housing, the problem we got with housing, poor housing policy. It's all geared toward wealthy people. All of it is pretty much geared toward making people wealthier that, are cash rich. That's what it does. When it comes to things like, our utilities and stuff, same thing. We really don't have a single Democrat that I know of that consistently sticks up for the working class. And unfortunately, when it came to climate change, for the first time in my life in Oregon, I actually watched the Republicans.
Yeah, isn't that something?
I mean,
Yeah, man.
strike me down with lightning. The Republicans standing up for the working class.
Yep.
When did that happen in Oregon before?
Yeah.
Like never.
That's right.
I will say that what they did, the working class in Oregon has no idea how much the Republicans saved their bacon. Kate Brown and our legislature was really, oh man, they were really putting in the screws. And just sit down, don't take my word for it. Contact your representative, because they're going to be coming around asking you for their vote for next year. So contact your representative and ask them what would have been the day-to-day impact on you if climate change bill had passed. Not the flowery stuff like we'd be taking leadership in global warming. Ask them for the dollars and cents. Say, hey, representative that wants me to vote for you, if I'd voted for you, I'm not voted for you. If this had gone through, what would have that meant for me? How would that have affected my family, financially? And then go from there, and then do your own research.
Well, they can do that somewhat because Boquist was the guy, that sort of led the charge.
Yeah.
In the legislature, they can call him up. They can just give him a call at the legislature.
There are several that-
he'd be more than glad to come out.
Several of the that's where I got it. Several of the Republicans
Yeah.
just laid out the numbers.
That's right.
And it
got the
was
numbers.
ugly.
Yeah.
And this is where I tell people this is one of the reasons why journalists get on my nut. Why doesn't the journalist community report on this stuff? I mean, they reported on oh my God, all of our Republicans just left the state.
Yeah.
But they said they left because they didn't want the climate bill.
Yeah.
But they didn't get into the details.
No, they didn't.
They didn't get into the,
they didn't.
this is what it would have done to diesel fuel.
We need security now that Boquist's here. He can't come in and.
Oh, yeah.
You saw that?
And they did
I
that.
said that was crazy.
You know,
it was crazy. But they put that was the news. That was the big news.
It's got to be humiliating to be a journalist right now.
They had to do what they had to do.
Yeah.
It's got to be humiliating to be a journalist right now because you know how many times these guys missed the ball?
Oh man.
I mean, just totally missed it. And the thing is, this is why a lot of people don't read the newspapers. Why should a working class person read a newspaper
That's right.
that doesn't have their interest in,
That's right.
doesn't write anything toward their
That's right,
interest?
that's right,
You know, I mean, how many working class people who live in homes that gross $80,000 a year or less would have loved to have known the impact on their heating
they
bill
would-
that's going to come up in about 3 months.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
How
That's
many
right.
would have wanted to know
That's right.
their impact on their and getting gas every day, every week, How many would have wanted to know that information? Now, that's what you call news.
That's right. And food.
You know, and food.
Big
How it would
time.
have affected food
That's right,
costs.
the big time.
Big stuff. How much would have affected beef? Potential beef costs and produce. Why didn't our journalists write that story? Because that was what, the working class would like to hear.
Well, I think about, and as you say, from that journalism aspect of it, I remember, who was the gentleman was from? He was working for the Oregonian. He's now a senator. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh.
He's a senator. He was at the Oregonian, and he ran for office, and he's there now. Like I said, you don't hear nothing about it, but he's a journalist. But you never hear anything in terms of his comments, commentary, and this, that, and the other. Interesting, how Democrat, seeing how he voted.
We really don't have any Democrats anymore that really speak up for the average working man and woman anymore. Which is another thing I want to suggest to all of you listening to this, whether you're Republican or Democrat, man, next session, please volunteer, call your representative up and volunteer to help them somehow. Read some of the bills.
Yeah.
Show up at some of the hearings. If you can. I mean, of course, everybody's got to live their lives and take
we're
care
gonna
of the
try to
kids.
draw some
But a
of
lot
them
of you
here.
who are retired, a lot of you who are semi-retired, a lot of you who've got some extra time. Just spend, I don't know, 20 hours a session, 30 hours a session, or maybe the entire, as much as they'll let you. That's why a lot of this stuff gets by a lot of these legislators too, is there's so many bills and they're so complicated sometimes that there are sometimes that it's easy for the herd mentality, you understand, to allow something that comes in and just guts.
Can they put them on the internet? These bills.
These bills, if my memory's correct, are on the internet
they are on the
already.
internet.
The ones that you say people should read.
Yeah. Well, you see, it would be good if more people were involved with their legislator.
Yeah.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because then they could help vet and put a lot of these bills out, get the information out.
Right.
You understand what I'm talking about? Because it's just like the cap and trade. You know how many people I know are like me? I believe in climate change. I do. I know a lot of people don't. And we do need to do something. But Oregon is like this on the world stage
That's right,
for
that's
what
right.
we've done.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
is a climate change bill as aggressive as what Kate Brown and Tina Kotek wanted? Is that worth the working poor seeing, what's going to happen to their life? Talking about, should someone like my mother who's retired see their gas bill go skyrocket? You get my meaning? You know what I mean? When she's on fixed income already, you know what I mean? My mother's lucky; she's got 3 kids. We're not going to let her.
Right.
But what about if she didn't have any kids?
Oh, gee, she's gone.
Or what if she had 3 bad kids?
What about all those people? What about all those people living in North Portland, where Tina is?
Yeah.
Those people are being totally gentrified, big time. They don't even know who she is. You know that?
Well, they keep voting for her.
That's what I'm saying. But that's the money, though. You got to remember, the money buys.
Well, a lot of people, we get into a comfortable zone. If we don't hear anything in the news, too scandalous.
That's right.
You know what I'm talking about? We just assume they're doing a good job.
That's right.
A lot of people don't have the time to really get persnickety. That's why I tell my friends and family that do have the time, so it's important that you do.
Right.
Because there are a lot of people who can't. And you don't know. You may see something or that can make a change, and you're not even elected. This climate bill. How many people in North Portland you think never read it?
That's right. They don't know.
And how many people in North Portland would have been affected negatively?
Oh yeah, big time.
How many retired people who live out there by Glenderville Golf Course?
Yep, that's right.
Would have just been gutted.
Oh,
Retired people who.
don't mean that. The senior citizens make nothing.
I know it's weird.
They can't own their
It's
homes.
something that is weird. I mean, I'm at 54.
Yeah.
It's really weird to see this time in our life.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected Oregon to go this way. This reminds me of like California 30 years ago. People were saying the same thing about California 30 years ago, how it wasn't a place for the working class.
That's million plus.
You know what I mean? And so that's why so many people move out of there.
That's right.
But so many people move in.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
many people move out.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
And we know about them moving out because a lot of them come up here.
That's right.
And now they're coming up here, and it's kind of like they're now moving into what they're moving away from.
That's right.
But
they've got $1 million in their pocket.
Well, the lucky ones that bought houses. Yeah, you're right.
They
The
got
lucky
$1
ones that bought
million in their
houses.
pocket. So they come here, sometimes they might buy one and rent one.
The main message I
Buy
want to
two.
leave with everybody is it's very important from now on that we all pay attention to the people who usually aren't in the room to stick up for themselves, which is the working class. And most of those people certainly make under 100 grand a year, but the average is they gross under 80 grand a year as far as a household. Think about those people on the lower and the economic success level that they are, the less likely they're going to be in the room to stick up for themselves and say, hey, I can't afford that. You know what I mean? I can't. Can we do something else, or can we do something that, in a way in which it doesn't force me to leave my hometown? You know what I mean? Is there a way we can do this? Instead, they do it in a way in which everybody in the room that makes over 100 grand a year can certainly afford
Well,
it.
as you're saying, what can they do? I mean, it's almost now, it's pretty well forced on you now,
Yeah.
65, 75, you got to understand how to operate this piece of equipment.
Correct.
You can actually call your legislator, you can even
Well,
ask them, you can
I won't
Google
even
it.
get into
Gee,
what
this
the cap and trade would have done for old houses.
Oh.
I mean, there's a lot of updating you need to do to old houses to make them more energy efficient. Can you imagine the amount of money people would have had to invest in improving the what do we call it, the insulation basically in their homes.
yes.
You know what I mean? They would have had to gone in and really invested an incredible amount of money in inferior houses. That's why a lot of developers would rather tear down a house
Yep.
and build a new one, because it's nearly impossible to build to make an older home a green home economically.
But doesn't the keeping one wall still qualify as a remodel?
I've heard that, but I don't know. I haven't done that yet.
I've seen
Yeah.
a couple of people have done that already.
Yeah, but I mean, all these
just
homes,
keep
like I
one
live in a
side.
home that's 95 years old.
Solid as a rock. That wood is.
Yeah, but I've already
Steel.
spent about $15,000 just on insulation in the house, insulating everything, tightening up the top,
Yep,
tightening
yep,
up the
yep,
bottom,
yep,
certain types of vents,
Yep.
and everything like that. And yeah, it made an effect on my, heating bill and everything like that. But how many people out there can't afford to do that?
That's right.
You understand? Well,
That's
it
right.
would have been even more expensive if cap and trade had come in.
Oh, gee.
So how many other people would not have been?
And she said, in all due respect, the governor made the point, said that we haven't forgotten this. They're coming back at the table.
Well, hopefully they come at it better. I hope Kate Brown comes at it where she's going to come in and turn all of the power companies like PGE, PP&L, and Northwest Natural Gas into PUDs. We need to take profit out of our power grid and and the gas grid, and use that savings as a way to afford cap and trade. That would be a great way to do it, because then the state could afford cap and trade, and it would lessen the impact greatly on the working class.
Well, you just hit a good point, because in all due respect, there's a recall petition going out there right now. They're trying to raise something like 280,000 signatures to put it on the ballot, if you will, to get rid of it.
You know what I think would be more effective? People just getting more involved in the legislature.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
she may reach out, spend a little bit more time on cap and trade. You got my point?
Well,
Talking to the solution that you were talking about.
I would love for her to do that. It would be great, but
Maybe I'll get
I
on.
think we would get there if people would just get more involved in their legislature. Just don't vote for your legislator.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Go
You
down
gotta
there
get
and get
involved.
involved.
You gotta
Get
get
in their
involved.
emailing list.
Yep, get
Find out what bills are coming up, what bills have been submitted.
right.
If you're in Salem, go to a hearing.
Well, in all due respect, we need to be a little bit more creative with reference to going down just to Salem a lot of time. People just going from point A to point B. We can do that on the tube.
Correct.
We can do rabbit eaters. So going
Yeah.
to senior citizen places, people own homes and whatever, they can look at those. They video all of that stuff. They could put that through this system right here now, cable access.
Well, I think
Throughout the state.
I think a lot of it's on
Throughout the state.
YouTube.
Our
too.
legislature?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I think a lot of it's on
they
YouTube.
video that. I'm saying, but my
Yeah.
point is that they need to kind of do a dedicated kind of a piece. If they could do it on a rabbit ear piece, because most people, in all due respect, seniors and folks are just kind of like, man, they have nowhere to go. The TV is just almost like a roommate, if
Yeah.
you will. You got me? And that's kind of like the way. And then they could see their legislators and their elected officials commenting about these issues, but you don't see it. They don't see it. I mean, they just, hey, you get flyers, and the flyers are basically, you pick up a tab, you know what I mean? You pay someone to make you look good, and you got there holding babies or this, that, and the other, and you vote on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or you vote on what the media say. Look, vote for this person because this is who the person is. We want you to vote, and they put that newspaper right next to that ballots when they're looking, you know, and when they're voting, and they say, well, the Oregonian said is this, bang, 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 bang. The Willamette Week says this, bang, 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 bang. And that's not the case. Get beyond that particular point. So I would suggest that, you know,
Well,
hey, start inquiring.
It's just like with cap and trade. I agree with cap and trade in general, the theory behind it. You just have to do it right.
Yep.
If you do it wrong, you literally burden a lot of people.
Yep.
We're talking about maybe 1.5 million, maybe even 2 million people.
Yeah.
You're putting a big burden on them.
Yes, you are.
A huge one. And they'll get through it, but they're going to suffer, and they don't need to. You know, to me, I always look at, if you're an elected official, you're to accomplish a mission, as they say in the Marines, and what? Protect the troops.
That's right.
You're to protect everybody.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to surrender
Yeah.
one group over another. You know, no matter how idealistic it is.
Yeah.
You know, and so no, I think cap and trade could be done effectively and inclusively here in Oregon, but what we had last session wasn't it. It definitely wasn't it, and we should be ashamed of it. You know, and I hope the Republicans are going to make sure that never happens again.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what they do on this petition drive.
Yeah.
You know, what issues I saw them on Your Voice, Your Vote today, and they were talking about other issues. You know, i.e. And so I thought that was kind of interesting how they do that. And Steve does a pretty good job, but again, that's not what he does. He's not out there, you know, walking the streets and knowing what's going down. He does the best job he can. You know, it's sort of leaned to sort of conservative side of the way, so that's basically what he supports aspect of it. But anyway, get that other piece.
Well, the Republicans came in big time for the working class.
Yes,
I
they
mean,
did.
I
Yes,
gotta
they
tell
did.
you, if you make less than 80 grand a year, the Republicans really did you a solid. You know, first time in my life I've seen it. I can't think of any other time other than Measure 5, Republicans have really done something good for the working class. That's another thing. 30 years ago to today, the average house in Multnomah County was the millage rate. Ready for this? $33 per thousand.
Wow.
$33 per thousand was average. Right now, the average millage rate is 15.
Wow.
So I was telling some people in my neighborhood, so can you imagine what your property taxes would be right now?
Wow.
That, you know, your house worth as much as it is. If all of a sudden the millage rate went back to what it was 30 years ago, 33. You know, a lot of people, that's like doubling their taxes.
That's right. And by the way, that's on the table.
Oh, I know my Democrats want to get rid of that. But I want them to do that, you know. I was expecting them to do that this time. But I want them to do that and they try to get reelected.
That's
I want
right.
them to walk into people's
that's right. That's
houses
right.
and go,
That's right.
yeah, I'm the one that doubled your property taxes. You know, you were paying $4,000
That's right.
a year, but
That's
now
right.
you're paying $8,000.
That's right. That's right.
You know, you were paying $3,000 a year, now you're paying $6,000.
Yeah.
You were paying $5,000, and then think about these new houses. A lot of these new houses that have been built over the last 10 years. I mean, the average property taxes, because they're taxed higher because they came into the existence at a higher value, right? The average taxes on those is like $8,000.
Wow.
I've seen $12,000
Wow.
on a brand new house.
Wow.
$12,000 on a brand new house, and I've seen that, right? So they get rid of Measure 5, get rid of Measure 50, right? Well, they get rid of Measure 50, everybody's property taxes double. So we're going to have people, millionaires, of course, living in our community, paying like $20,000 a year in property taxes.
Oh, my God.
You know what I mean? For a house they bought in like 2017 or 2016. And we're going to have, you know, somebody who moved over to, let's say, like Blandina Street, like 6th and Blandina or whatever, who's paying right now $3,000. They're going to be paying $6,000.
Oh.
And if that's a rental, what do you think that does to your rent?
Oh,
you know
my
what I mean?
God. Right.
Your landlord may just kick you out.
That's right.
Pay the $5,000
That's right. Yep,
to
yep.
kick you out. You know what I mean? And then double the rent so they can cover. You know, I mean, I'd say people, if they get rid of Measure 50, you're gonna have a bunch of landlords just saying, "Screw it, I'm gonna pay the $5,000.
Yep.
I'm giving I'm not renewing the lease on my tenant. They gotta leave
Yep.
because I'm gonna pay them the $5,000."
Yep.
And when they move out, I'm gonna, increase my rent by at least 50%.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because
Yep.
I ain't taking that hit all
That's right.
all on my
There
own.
you go.
You know what I mean? So we're gonna have a lot of people looking for a home.
Hey.
You know, the moment you hear Kate Brown and Tina Kotek have found a way to get rid of Measure 50, if you rent, start looking at Craigslist. Because, and understand, you're going to pay more wherever you go. But the moment Measure 50 goes away, your rent's going up. Your rent's going a lot, a whole lot. They may come in and try to put a cap on rent control, but I think there's going to be a legal challenge to it when they do that. You understand?
Oh, yeah,
and I think the
yeah,
judges, you know, at least at the federal level, maybe not the state level, the judges aren't going to be kind to Oregon. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, oh,
You know,
yeah.
increasing,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
oh, yeah, oh,
the
yeah.
cost so much,
You know that-
and then telling landlords they can't pass it on to the end user. Oh my God!
Can't say that.
Yeah, I mean there's going to be a constitutional challenge on that, probably a federal one. So no, it's like I said, my Democrats are weird right now.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, we got an election coming up, 2020. You got me? So it's there. Now, the idea is that, as you say, they're going to have to get involved.
Yep.
They're going to have to get involved.
You're going to have to get involved and pay attention.
You got
Measure 50 and Measure 5, two things. Even middle class people better pay attention to that.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you're going to, like I said,
That's
God,
right.
Measure 50 going away. Oh my God, the property tax bills are going to be
They're gonna
over the rainbow.
They're going to do it.
I mean, the amount of money that's going to bring into the state.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the state's not going to be broke anymore. Oh, they probably will. But you know what I mean.
Well, you can rest assured Kate is looking at that.
Oh no, she said she wants to do it, and I've told a couple of legislators.
does.
Now, if there are, and if the Republicans understand that maybe they have a plan, but I didn't see the plan on Steve's show today on the Your
Yeah.
Voice, Your Vote. And he was basically had both the chairman of the Republican Party and the Democrat Party talking about this whole issue of signature.
Yeah.
But the RA didn't have anything like something that sticks on the wall. If you know what I'm saying. You got me?
You know, I'm the type that if I've ever heard of a legislator that I could vote for,
Yep.
say they're interested in overturning Measure 50 or Measure 5, I do not vote for them. I don't vote for them. I won't vote. I mean, I don't care how much I like them. I won't vote for them.
Well, we'll see what's happening.
I won't vote for
You
them.
may have to come back on this. We got to find somebody.
You know, because
This issue.
I mean, can you imagine how many people in Northeast Portland
they'd be gone.
would be? I mean, it would
Well,
be.
they've got Happy Valley. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the
They
thing
got
is,
Happy Valley.
it's twofold. When you raise the property taxes, you lower the property values, right? So you increase the cost for the homeowner. That's static, but you lower the property values because people can afford less. Well, that's great. They afford less, but then how many people are going to be interested in buying your house if your property taxes? If your house is like $300,000, but you got $20,000 a year in property taxes.
Right.
Yeah. You know, you got a $300,000.
Oh.
Hey, how much you want for that house? I'll pay you $300,000 for that house. Okay, great. What's the property taxes? $20,000 a year. You know, how many? And then how many people can't even afford that? You know, I mean, how many people can't afford a $300,000 house if the property taxes were $20,000 a year?
Jesus Christ, boy.
You know, I mean, that's the stuff.
Can't believe it.
That's the stuff. And the thing is, what blows me away, guys, is our Democrats, our legislators, they never talk. They just say, we need to get rid of Measure 50 because we need to fund education better.
Oh yeah.
We need
Always
to
use
fully fund it.
education and still not doing the job.
And the thing is, I'm not disagreeing with them, but we need to fund education. I'm all for
Yeah,
it.
but bottom
But
line,
I
what
want
about
them
the
to say,
results?
hey, look, it's important that we double your property taxes so that we can fund education. You know, it's important that the taxes that you pay go up by 100% so we can fund education.
All right, we got about another minute. Rich, what do you think? What do you think about the
I think
info
we
we got
need
today?
to thank our crew.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank our crew.
And I think
we want to
millennials coming into the city are right now is one of the big. They come into the. It's kind of funny. They come in the city. They don't bring houses.
Okay, I got you.
they
I
don't.
got you.
We just.
Well,
That's why we need to build more housing.
We got just a few more minutes, real quick. Like I want to make sure we thank Fred for being on.
Oh,
Fred,
yeah.
you gave quite a bit of information.
Very
I mean, it's very, very studious, and
educational.
very, very, very educational. And we'd implore you to call your friends and your neighbors. It repeats itself. You'll see the schedule, and tell them to look at the show and pass it on, if you will, because they can look at this show over and over. And you can go on my list, if you will, Oregon Voters Digest on YouTube, and you can look at the show. Okay? With that, again, thank you very much, Fred.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Very much.
Love to talk about housing.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Got to have you back on again.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay. All right, folks, you got the show. I'll see you next week. Have a
Right.
good one.